Hey, good morning, everyone. Tony Gullidge, the Great White Capper, with the premier live stream on this channel. Hope everyone's having a great morning, kicking off what should be a great day of college football action. And in this live stream, we're going to take a look at some of the plays. Let's just go through the list here, guys. Let's go right to the games and let's take a peek. First game on the rotation that we're going to talk about here, Wake Forest travels into Vanderbilt. Wake Forest, 13.5-point favorites against the Commodores. Demon Deacons 1-0. They had a 44-10 home win over VMI. Take a quick check. They were 33.5-point favorites, won by 34. So they snuck in a cover against the Keydets from VMI. Vanderbilt, two big wins, scored a lot of points, crushed Hawaii. They had problems. I won't say problems, but they did get by Elon. The used to be known as the Fighting Christians. Now they're the Fighting Phoenix. And yeah, 42-31. Don't think they got anywhere near covering that play. And Wake Forest, Vanderbilt. Next game on this list, you got Arkansas State. Arkansas State 1-0. 58-3 win over Grambling State. Wow, just a total beating there. Let's take a look at the stats. Let's see what they actually did. In that game, Arkansas State, 6 of 12 on third downs, 34 first downs to only 9 for Grambling. 339 yards rushing, 572 total yards. Grambling managed only 102 total yards in that game. Basically a glorified scrimmage. And then they get, for their trouble, they get to go to Ohio State, where they are 44.5-point underdogs to the Buckeyes in Columbus. Wow, that's a big number. Next game, Southern Mississippi. After they took a loss in triple overtime, I do believe, to Liberty. I think that was the only game they played, yes. And then you got the Miami Hurricanes are hosting 70-13 win over Bethune-Cookman. And in this game, we got a line of 27. That's pretty ambitious for the Miami Hurricanes to cover a 27-point spread. So we'll see how that works out. And next game, the Bobcats of Ohio, 1-0. Take a quick peek at who they got by Florida Atlantic in a pretty good, hotly contested game. It was 41-38 Ohio. Florida Atlantic, as I recall, we had them as our very first best bet play of the season as they hosted the Charlotte Niners, and they crushed Charlotte. And so they go into Ohio off that win and cover as a 4.5-point favorite. And wow, they get beat 41-38. I just see the total in that game was 49.5. They go flying past the total, 79. They had 35 points in the fourth quarter scored between the two teams. And Penn State also had them as a best bet winner, -3.5 as they played Purdue, and it was rather tight. Pick 6 by Penn State. It looked like Purdue was going to be able to take this game, but Penn State's defense made a good play. I didn't think Purdue managed the clock very well in that game, throwing way too much when they probably should have been milking the play clock, and it ended up burning them as Penn State, with just a couple minutes left, were able to mount a big drive, get right down the field, 35-31 final. Penn State covered. And now you got those two facing off in a 28-point spread in that game. Wow, big number. North Carolina, the Tar Heels, as they travel to Georgia State. The game's in Atlanta Center Park Stadium. Last time these two teams played, last year, September 11th of last year. So damn near a year to the date since these two teams played. North Carolina came away with a 59-17 win against Georgia State in that game. So far this year, the Tar Heels are 2-0. Won, and pretty much what was a pick 'em. They were 1 or 2 point underdogs last week at App State. They fell behind early, took the lead late, and then had to hold on, go to overtime, win on a 2-point conversion play. Just an insane game. 40-22. Yeah, Appalachian State, 40 points after the start of the fourth quarter. Just incredible game, offensive output. 124 points scored. Just a crazy game in Boone. North Carolina did get the win. So the Tar Heels come into this game 2-0. Georgia State last week, taking a peek at the South Carolina game. You know, they covered, and I do believe that South Carolina had 2 blocked punts for touchdowns. I noted that the Georgia State defense was pretty good against the run. They held South Carolina to 79 yards on the ground in 32 attempts. South Carolina was only 3 of 14 on third down conversions in that game. The way the Tar Heels have been moving the ball, that 7 looks intriguing. So we'll see. I mean, I know it's on the road against Georgia State, who's going to try to control the flow of the game and the clock, but will they be able to score enough points to beat the Tar Heels today? I don't think so. And as we move on, number 1, Alabama. The Crimson Tide of Alabama will face the Texas Longhorns. And I was trying to remember the last time that the Texas Longhorns were 21-point home underdogs. You're probably going to have to dig deep, go way back in the annals to find any time that Texas has been given this many points at home. Texas is 1-0. Their tune-up for this game was Louisiana Monroe, 52-10 win. And I know there was a lot of trash talking going on. I think the Texas quarterback said some basically bulletin board material. Should probably, I mean, not like Alabama needs any incentive to play well, and they're definitely one of the best teams in the country. 55-0 win over Utah State in a game where I think some expected Utah State to at least put up some kind of resistance, but man, they got steamrolled. Take a quick look at the stats there. Bryce Young, 5 touchdown passes. Wow, just big numbers too. Talking about balanced offense, 278 yards on the ground for Alabama, 281 yards through the air, 559 total yards to only 136 yards for Utah State, and 30 first downs for the Tide to only 7 for Utah State, who were 3 of 17 on third down conversions, less than 20%. And therefore, you get the 55-0 Alabama win. Texas, I mean, this is a tough game probably to call. If I'm going to lean anywhere for this one, guys, it's definitely going to be Alabama. I think that's going to probably be the side. Just that dominant performance last week makes me think the Bama defense is probably ready, fine-tuned, and looking for an opponent just to beat around. And they get Texas today. The game will be played at Darrell K. Royal Memorial Stadium in Austin. So Texas has the fans behind them, the location, but do they have the horses to hang with Alabama? Next game down this list. All these games start in less than an hour that we're going over here quickly. You've got Duke traveling in to Evanston, and they're taking on the Northwestern Wildcats. So you got and these teams are traditionally played in football. You got 2 high-end luxury private schools, Duke in the ACC, Northwestern in the Big Ten. Northwestern 31-28 win over Nebraska, where they were a pretty good underdog. And that game, I didn't touch it, but I was very skeptical of Nebraska and getting all this hype before the season starts. You have to question when people do this. You give these teams these lofty expectations when they've really done nothing to deserve them. And I think that was the case for Nebraska in that game against Northwestern. I think people expected something that just wasn't going to happen. Northwestern actually had a great game. Trying to take a look at the fourth quarter. Only score of the fourth quarter was the Northwestern go-ahead touchdown. 2 picks for Casey Thompson. 355 yards through the air, but he threw it a lot and threw the 2 picks. Nebraska, 110 yards on the ground, 465 total, but they gave up 214 yards on the ground to Northwestern, and eventually that is what cost them, is they just were not able to get the ball. Like 7 of 17 on third downs for Northwestern, Nebraska 9 of 16. And so you wonder if Northwestern is as good as they looked in that performance. Duke, on the other hand, 30-0 win over Temple. Believe we had Duke. I had to check my list. I do believe I had them as an action play last week, and they just crushed Temple. They jumped on them early. It was 24-0 at the half. A couple of second half field goals filled out your score line. 30-0 Duke in that game. 9.5-point favorites. 51.5 was that total. Looking at some other stats, I will say the troublesome part for Duke, even though they scored 30 points, they were only 1 of 9 on third down conversions. Pretty well-balanced offense. They were able to get 172 yards on the ground, 328 through the air, 500 total yards. Temple managed 12 first downs, 5 of 14 on third down conversions, but only 179 total yards, and they lost 2 fumbles. They were just awful, and Duke thumped them. In this game, guys, my theory and thought process here is going to be that Northwestern is probably laying a few too many points here against Duke. I think Duke can move the ball. Duke can score. And like I say, I just don't know how good Nebraska is. And Northwestern winning is, I think, double-digit underdog straight up. I think now that the line has went deeply into their favor, -10, it's a lot more pressure as a double-digit favorite as a double-digit dog. As a double-digit dog, you're just out there fired up, nothing to lose, just looking to hang in. And Northwestern did that last week. So with that kind of thought process in mind, I'm going to play Duke here. This is one of my plays on the Inner Circle list. So I definitely like the Duke Blue Devils in that game. The next game on the list, Western Illinois travels in to Minneapolis, and they take on the Gophers of Minnesota. Looking at their first game, New Mexico State, who was 0-2, the Gophers were able to get a 38-0 win. They covered a 34.5-point line. Total was 52.5. Didn't get there, but New Mexico State was able to do nothing. I'm going to take a pick at the stats. They had 6 first downs the entire game, less than 100 yards of offense, 91 yards of offense for New Mexico State, 38 on the ground, 53 through the air. Meanwhile, Minnesota just ran all over them, 297 yards on the ground and chip in 188 through the air, which they obviously did not have to throw a lot. They were 11 of 14 on third downs. That's probably going to put them near the top of the nation with that. That's a huge number. So basically, New Mexico State had no offense and no defense, and they got routed 38-0. Western Illinois, you kind of trying to get a feel from the Missouri Valley Conference. They lost 42-25 to Tennessee Martin on the road. They're on the road here again. Last time these two teams played has been since 2013 when these two matched up in a game that Minnesota did win 29-12. Just a huge number. This is 41 point. Like I said, Minnesota did cover a lofty number last week. You just wonder if they're going to be able to pour it on again in that way. You just wonder if Western Illinois is as pathetic as New Mexico State was in that outing. I question that. I did not touch this game, but my gut instinct would be to lean to the visiting Western Illinois with those 41 points. That's just a lot of points. You almost get the feel that Minnesota could put their foot on their throat, get way out in front and then call off the dogs, kind of like what they did against New Mexico State. 38-0 there, 41-point spread here. I would lean to Western Illinois. Next game on the list here, guys, South Carolina. And I think I mentioned them earlier when we talked about the Georgia State Tar Heel game. South Carolina opened up the season with a 35-14 home win against Georgia State. Now it's their SEC opener on the road at Arkansas, who was able to come away with what was a pretty nice win against Cincinnati last week. It was right on the number. It depends on what number you got. I saw different numbers different times. 7 was pretty prevalent. And I think I had Cincinnati +7, so I pushed that game. And I was pretty impressed with what Arkansas was able to do. I thought their offense was really balanced. Their defense struggled at times in this game, but Cincinnati was a team that brought back their entire offensive line, although they lost several key players for that game here from last season. The team, the playoff team, Cincinnati last season, they had a full offensive line, so that part of the team was probably going to be ready to fire, and it gave Arkansas a little bit of trouble. And checking this out here, just quick check of the stats. Yeah, Arkansas very, very balanced in that game. 224 on the ground, 223, 23 first downs, 8 of 16. Both teams, Cincinnati and Arkansas, were 8 of 16 on third downs. So what you had was some very good offense, some mediocre defense, and an exciting game that came down pretty much to the end, 31-24 final, Arkansas and South Carolina. As I mentioned, really, guys, I think the play here has got to be on Arkansas, right? I mean, home opener, SEC, not home opener, SEC home opener against a team, thinking back, I'll see if they got the last time they played. Yes, they haven't played since 2017. And if my memory serves correct, South Carolina's gotten the best of Arkansas in their most recent outings. That 2017 game was a 48-22 South Carolina win. So, kind of think that Arkansas might want to get a little bit of payback and get a good footing and a good start in the SEC. I actually like this spot for Arkansas. I'd recommend a play there. Next game down this list, UTSA, the Roadrunners. If it catches you, you crew. That coyote is really a crazy clown. UTSA, Roadrunners, 37-35, triple overtime loss in their opener to Houston. Pretty sure they covered the spread. 3.5-point spread. Actually, a pretty good game. I caught a little bit of that one. Houston rallied. UTSA basically blew that game, 17-3 fourth quarter for Houston, and they were able to get it tied, send it to overtime. And then this rule going into that third overtime where you just do alternating 2-point plays until somebody comes out with the lead. This might as well just draw lots or something. Yeah, flip a coin at that point. That's basically what they're doing. But it does eliminate those 7-8 overtime marathons, which has been a while, but I think I remember a Tennessee-Arkansas game maybe a decade ago that went 7 overtime, something to that effect, and it ground out. Nobody could get the win. So yeah, the NCAA rules now, basically, after the second overtime, you go to alternating 2-point plays. So you just basically line up and run your best 2-point play. Houston was able to get theirs. UTSA obviously not. 37-35 final in that game. Army 38-28 loss at Coastal Carolina. And I was a little more impressed with Coastal Carolina. I expected a little bit of slippage from them after their big season last year. But obviously with the McCall still taking the snaps, he's getting better, it looks like. And even with some of their key weapons offensively, they've been able to reload, and they moved the ball very well in that game. Let's take a quick peek to see what Army defensively looked like on the road. 263 yards rushing for Coastal Carolina, 174 through the air, 437. Coastal Carolina just kept the ball, 36 minutes of possession. That's usually what Army does to their opponents. In this instance, Army was not able to keep that ball. 11 first downs only for Army. 202 yards rushing sounds good, but for a team that lives on the run, that was not a great effort by them. 30 first downs for Coastal Carolina, only 11 for Army. So Army really got thumped pretty good. But now they're back home. Army won the last meeting between these two, 28-16. I mean, just looking at everything over, what I always like to do was kind of consider a team like Army on the road. We're not able to get it done. Now they come back home, and you expect them to play better, and they're 2.5-point underdogs to UTSA. Kind of smells. My gut would say to lean to Army, but there's something that has a reeking smell to that. That just smells like they're trying to get you to fall into the Army pit. Although I could not take UTSA as a road favorite against one of the academy schools. You wonder about the discipline. Will they be able to, stay in their lanes and control the up front against the option attack of Army? Some schools can do it well. Some schools cannot. And we'll see. My lean there would be to Army. And the final 9 a.m. West Coast time start, we got Missouri playing Kansas State. Missouri now in the SEC, 52-24 win. I think I had Louisiana Tech plus the 19 or 20 points in that game. Took the L as the Missouri offense was really strong in that game. 28 first downs, 328 yards on the ground for Missouri in that game. 230 through the air. They threw a pick, lost a fumble. Didn't really matter. Louisiana Tech threw 3 picks, had 8 yards rushing. Wow. And 18 first downs. 6 of 12 on third downs in that game for Missouri. Kansas State has never been traditionally, for as long as I can remember, as long as I've watched college football since probably the late 70s, going into Manhattan has not been easy. So, I mean, you got to consider that 34-0 win in their opener against South Dakota. Just taking a quick peek. 297 yards on the ground for Kansas State against only 97 yards passing. 19 first downs to 13 for South Dakota. Trying to get a line on that one. I don't see it available. Maybe they covered, maybe not. That is a big number. 34-0 was the final there. And now you're talking, last time these two teams played, it has been more than a decade. October of 2011, these two teams matched up, and Kansas State got a 24-17 win. Kansas State, 7-point favorites. Kind of a tricky line. Obviously, I did not touch this game, and trying just to think of where I would fall if forced to pick this one. Yeah, I'm trying not to put too much stock into what Missouri did last week, but that was a good amount of points, and their offense did click very well. I would probably have to lean to Missouri in this case with the 7 points at Manhattan. That just sounds crazy. Yeah, I really don't know what to think about Kansas State. Like I said, South Dakota win, not exactly the most impressive opponent. And give Missouri a decent shot here today, actually. +7. The more I sit here and talk about it, the more I seem to like it. So you got Missouri and Kansas State. Then you got the oddball start time here. Charleston Southern. And they lost their opening game. Take a quick peek at that. 52-38 home loss against Western Carolina. And they will tackle NC State, who was fortunate. I had them as a play last week. Was very disappointed. They did get the lead, and looked like they were probably on their way to making a cover. And then the offense in the second half just went to sleep, anesthetized, and sucking down the Jackson juice. Didn't do anything. And then East Carolina misses a makeable field goal at the very end. And North Carolina State was able to survive and get out of town, get out of Greenville, North Carolina with a 21-20 win in their opener. So that's definitely not impressive. But the line makers didn't take a lot of stock in that. NC State is 45.5-point favorites against Charleston Southern. These numbers are just insane. Not to say they can't or won't cover that number. That's just a lot to ask. I mean, if anything goes wrong, making that number is going to be tough to do. Just a complete and total pass for me on that one. About how long are we in this? About 25 minutes in. Probably going to run this about 30 minutes. So let's just kind of get to the key games. Let's go through and take a look at the ranked opponents for the rest of these games. And we can start with Southern Utah at Utah, 45-point favorites. Utah off their opening loss at Florida. I know they're going to be fired up, ready to go, but damn, these spreads, man, 45. I'm not really intrigued with that one, but that's what you got. 45-point line for Utah as they host Southern Utah. And then Texas A&M, 18 points to Appalachian State. Appalachian State obviously defensively has issues, but man, Texas A&M 31-0 win over Sam Houston State didn't exactly blow their doors off, and 18-point favorites against App State, who can be a dangerous team. That's kind of a tricky one, man. Early on, I know Texas A&M ranked 6th, although rankings mean next to nothing to me. I go by performance on the field, not what some people vote. Appalachian State obviously got pretty famous, put their name on the map with the Ann Arbor game where they actually went to Michigan, blocked a field goal, won the game. It's been a long time, but that kind of put them on the map, and people have kind of heard of them since that time. So this is one of those, if you're going to put me on the spot here, I would probably slightly lean to Appalachian State, although I have no skin in this game. You got a ranked matchup in this one. Tennessee travels into Pittsburgh. Last time these two teams met last year, it was a 41-34 in September, almost exactly a year ago, 1 day short of a year since Pittsburgh beat Tennessee 41-34. And as I recall, that was a very good game. You got both teams coming in here off wins. Tennessee 59-10 win against Ball State. And then Pittsburgh 38-31 win against West Virginia. And I had West Virginia plus 7.5. So I was able to sneak out a cover, get out of town. And that one felt fortunate because I just didn't think Pittsburgh was going to be as strong offensively as they were in that game. Taking a quick peek at the stats from the Pittsburgh game against West Virginia. They only ran the ball for 76 yards, 384 total yards offensively. And they had a fumble, no picks. Rodney Hammond was 74 yards on the ground on 16 carries and 2 touchdowns. Keaton Slovis was the quarterback, 16 of 24. That's really efficient, 308 yards and a touchdown. That'll probably get you a really good passer rating. And the winning score in that game was an interception return for a touchdown. In a situation where for a good part of the game, West Virginia looked like they had a good shot of winning, but then they fell apart and could not handle it. But like I said, they did make that 7.5-point number in that contest. And moving down the line here, number 5, Clemson. Man, that video, if you haven't checked it out, had the video, the max bet still, of course, already in. Excuse me for a second, just trying to take a look at what everybody's got going on here. Beautiful. Yeah, that's one of my clients, excuse me, guys, going over a couple of games there. Clemson against Furman. Clemson, as I mentioned, 41-10 winners over Georgia Tech. I did a video for that game, and as it turned out, I called the score 40-10, finished 41-10. in a game that it didn't look like at any point Clemson was ever going to make that number. But in the fourth quarter, they did exert themselves, make some big plays. Block punts played a key part in Clemson making that number. Furman Paladins, see what they did. They got a win in their opener, 52-0 against North Greenville University. Let's put it this way. That team is so unknown. They don't even have a logo. They just got a football for their – so I would not put much stock in that. 48-7 last time these two teams faced in-state rivals. They played in 2018, 48-7. And Clemson here favored by 45. Just these huge numbers. I would not try to make a living betting 45-point spreads in college football. I mean, obviously you can get there, but like I say, just one or two plays, anything, a kickoff return, a punt return, a fumble, something that changes the momentum for just a few minutes, sometimes is enough to make it hard for these teams to cover this kind of number. 45.5-point favorites, Clemson over Furman. Next ranked team I see on the list here, we got Wisconsin. Number 19, Wisconsin, hosting Washington State. Washington State winners in their first game, 24-17 win at home against Idaho. Obviously, that was not impressive at all. 38-0 win for Wisconsin against Illinois State. Let's take a quick peek. I'm sure, 221 on the ground, 219 through the air, really balanced. And they were 37.5-point favorites and won by 38. So they actually put some damn good numbers on some of these games. I noticed a lot of these games with the big spreads. I mean, there's a hook, a point. I mean, coming down to the very end on the covering. Wow, what do they got for a number here? Wisconsin by 17.5. If Wisconsin has a balanced offensive attack, you'd think this could be one they might be able to take care of. I think the troublesome spot here at Washington State. Let me take a quick peek at these stats here against Idaho. Wow, let's see. 6 of 13 on third downs, 143 through running, 215 through the air. They did have 3 fumbles. That was probably what really kept Idaho in the game, those 3 fumbles. And you wonder if they can just keep a hold of the ball here. Can they hang within that 17.5 against the Wisconsin team? Wisconsin is prone to sometimes playing slow and playing down to the level of their opponent. This is a tough one to call. If I had to make a play, which I have no action on this game, I would lean to Washington State. And we're about at the 35-minute mark, 33 minutes. I definitely want to have myself a little time to get set up for these early slate of games. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to quickly go over some of the plays I have for the members. I have a maximum best bet play, and it goes early, guys. You can check out the website, thegreatwhitecapper.com, get the information on a guaranteed pick. If the play fails to win for any reason, your fee will be immediately refunded to you. So there's no risk in terms of, I'm not trying to make a killing off of it, but it is the highest rating I give any play. This is only the third of those plays I've had in 2022. One in the NCAA basketball tournament, Sweet 16. I had the Miami Hurricanes against Iowa State. Easily covered the game. I called that score 70-55. The actual final score of that game was 70-56. And then the next maximum best bet play I had was in Major League Baseball. It was a Texas Rangers game with Martin Perez starting on the road, where his ROI was over 100% at the time. He was perfect on the road. And it was 10-0 at one point. I think the final score ended up being 11-4. And I think we got that at even money. So I got a great price, great hit, great win. So then now third is in the NCAA football, and that goes here within about a half an hour. This game kicks off. So let's just take a quick peek at some of the games I like. I can pretty much talk about the ones I like other than that maximum best bet. My 2 second-level plays are going to be Alabama, and I got the line at 20. I see it's 21 now. So I did take Alabama minus 20 against Texas. And I also took Stanford later. West Coast games and these teams, sometimes they just get way too much hype and they never live up to the expectation. USC is one of those teams this year. They're going to have to prove it to me that they can actually sustain a consistent level of play throughout an entire season. And the Pac-12, that always seems to be the best team that appears one week, lays an egg the next. Very inconsistent league, probably why teams are fleeing, heading for greener pastures. And then you've got Alabama. So Stanford, I like Stanford at home in that game, plus the 8.5 points. I'm just going to basically fade the overhyped USC Trojans. And it's not an easy place to play, Stanford. They'll try to control the flow, control the clock. And we'll see if USC can overcome that. But for me, in this game today, I'm taking Stanford. So my 2 second-level plays that I really like, Alabama, and I like Stanford. And the next tier of plays, I got 3 action plays here. Duke, I mentioned, as they take on Northwestern. I like Duke in the points. I'm also going to play Virginia plus 4.5 as they take on the Illini of Illinois, who came back down to earth as I had kind of expected. So that worked out good. And then Oregon State. I'm going to take a flyer with these guys. I think they're playing at Fresno State, and it's been kind of a pick 'em -1 range. I think this team might be on the improve and maybe make a little noise in the Pac-12. We'll see. It's tough to break through when you can't recruit the 5-star athletes. But let's see if tonight they can at least go into Fresno and get a big win against the Bulldogs. Oregon State Beavers -1. And then finally, my lowest level of plays, guys. This is for what I like to call parlay filler. If you're just trying to make out a big lotto ticket, consider these as part of your action. Charlotte plus 27.5. I think that line's come down. I think is a really ambitious spread for Maryland. As bad as Charlotte's looked at home, I think they can have at least a little bit of offensive competence, put up a few points, and trying to cover a big number like that, it's not going to take much for Charlotte at home. Obviously, the question for Charlotte's that defense. I mean, it's not been very good, and can they at least slow Maryland down a little bit? We'll find out here in a little while today. Other game I like, UAB -6. I think I noted in the video I like UAB also. I think these are the 3 games I did in the video. UAB is really good in this spot with this kind of spread as a favorite, laying 6 or more. I think they went 5-1 last season. Liberty lost their quarterback with a broken hand. They had another guy come in. They just didn't use him much, so they really limited the playbook with this guy, just really short passes. We'll see how the quarterback situation plays out for Liberty today. They will need some quarterback flow to go. But I took UAB -6. And finally, Arizona State plus 11. I've had some success with Arizona State. Herm Edwards, more of a pro-style coaching philosophy in terms of controlling the clock, likes to run it, play defense, play field position. Oklahoma State, big offensive outing last week, but their defense got shredded down the stretch. They gave up 44 points, I do believe, in their win. A lot of that came late, cosmetic points, but their defense just didn't stiffen up. They kind of laxed, and they gave up a lot of points. It makes me think Arizona State can have a couple long, time-consuming drives, keep this game close, maybe put a little bit of pressure on Oklahoma State. We'll see. But as part of that parlay filler action card, we're going to take Arizona State plus 11. So there's pretty much my entire card except my maximum best bet play, which goes in 20 minutes. And we're about 39 minutes in, guys. Now, see, I got a couple of viewers, no comments. Appreciate any comments. My chat completely dry. Maybe I should say hello just to have something on here. Hello, everyone. Hi. How are you today? Wonderful. So basically, I sat here and recited a good bit of the college football play chart. And we'll see maybe tomorrow morning we'll do something to set up for the big NFL games tomorrow. I do have a best bet ready to fire. Inner Circle's got my NFL card for tomorrow. But I'm thinking I can do another live stream for the morning for the NFL. That would be pretty cool. So we're at the 40-minute mark. I think I'm going to probably head on in, and I appreciate everybody that tuned in. Catch it on the flip side. We can watch this live stream later and see how these plays went, guys. Best of luck to everyone with all of your action today. Let's catch a lot of tickets. Let's have a good day, guys. And I appreciate everyone tuning in. And my 2 viewers, it's probably my mom, and who knows. But thanks again, guys, and I'll talk to you later. Great day today, and thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.